right, we're going to get started. I'd like to call this Monday, December 2nd, School Committee Business Meeting to order. Mrs. Yell, can you take the roll, please?
Mayor Reardon.
I'm here.
Sarah Hall.
Here.
Andrew Boulder.
Here.
Ryan Callahan.
Here.
Brianna Higgins. Kathleen Shaw.
Here.
Juliette Walker.
Present.
All right, can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Vice Chair Hall.
Do we have public comment? Great. Thank you for grabbing that. All right, before we begin public comment, I'm just going to read a few reminders. Please keep to topics within the school committee's scope of authority. We encourage civility. Be mindful of the fact that this is a public meeting which is being live streamed and recorded for all ages in our community. Please be aware that this is not an opportunity for discussion and you will not receive a response at this time. You will have 2 minutes for your comment. Longer comments can be sent to the school committee via email. And first up, we have Kristen Vicenti. You can just come right up to the mic here. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Vicenti. I'm a mom of 3 boys here, an educator of 18 years, 9 of which I spent at the NUC in Newburyport, and for the last 3 years I've worked as an administrator in a private school in New Hampshire. And I'm here today to just ask the committee to consider reviewing the current cell phone policy in the district. 2 years ago at my school, we required students to turn their cell phones in each morning. Plenty of parents were mad and plenty of kids were anxious, but I knew during that very first lunch we made the right decision because kids were looking up. I knew in the halls made the right decision because kids were looking up. I know the NOC has been focusing on phones away for the day this year, which is excellent. I also know that most teachers at the high school ask students to place their phones in those cell phone holders at the beginning of each class. I commend these actions as steps in the right direction and urge administrators and the school committee to take it a step further. The research is clear on phone access during the school day. We should have hallways at the high school where students look up and cafeterias where they connect with one another. As an administrator, I understand the hesitation to move forward with this as I navigated many conversations with upset parents when we removed phones. I urge the school committee to take the first step and support a critical review of the policy that includes referencing the research and surveying the teachers, the people who are boots on the ground. The teachers' voices should be heard on this matter as they are the ones required to police phone use and are likely the ones who will have the best solution. I hope to see the cell phone policy on the committee's agenda in the near future, as this would be a great year to review policy and make changes for the following school year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's it for public comment. Consent agenda. Mr. Callahan, are you ready with the warrants?
I am ready. I move that the following named bills of the Newburyport Public Schools amounting in the aggregate $173,834.48 be approved and forwarded to the city auditor for payment. There are no conflicts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have one set of minutes to approve from our last meeting, November 18th. I have one correction. Anyone else have corrections? So, Ms. Yell, if you look on, it's page 4 of the minutes, not of the packet, but of the minutes. It's the last page where it says adjournment. I think maybe it was something from a prior meeting. Do you see that? Because it says we went into executive session, which we did not. And it says the mayor was absent, but he was the one who made the motion. So.
Yeah, the previous meeting.
Yeah,
Meeting.
yeah, and then just cut out the roll call there. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other corrections on those minutes? Okay. Motion to approve the November 18th minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Unfortunately, our student representative couldn't attend tonight, so we'll move on to the introduction of TMS.
All right. So at this time, I'd like to call up Vice President Andy Brown and Michael Wood. You can come right up to the podium there. So as school committee knows, we did an extensive search looking at filling in for the interim position here, and we all landed on contracting with TMS Solutions, which is a team approach, really to the business finances of the school. So I have kind of the team that we'll be working with. Instead of reading through all of this for you all, this is kind of the background. Michael Wood will be our point person for the district. Brings extensive background, not only as a former superintendent, special ed director, but also a business manager. And I'll turn it over to Andy Brown, the Vice President of Strategies and Communication.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. As you heard, Michael Wood's going to be taking the lead on this. We'll also have Nicole Wood on board. We take a team approach. So Michael will take the lead. Nicole will offer support, payroll, accounting, budget help, kind of all of the behind-the-scenes stuff that nobody really wants to hear about, and it just happens. We also have an extensive team of support beyond that will support Michael with expertise that maybe comes up that we're like, okay, this is a little unfamiliar because this is the way you guys operate. We're not here to take over and say, do it this way. We're here to integrate kind of seamlessly, enhance the process, make it better, and get the job done. Does anyone have any questions?
I guess I have a question about the schedule. Generally, we do meet once a month at 9:30 on Thursdays, which is next Thursday in central office. Is that going to work?
That will work. We've talked about, I'll be there on site on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
And I believe Nicole will also be there on those days, so we'll be able to support that.
Okay. So I'll create the agenda for that. I'll send it to Joanne, who can get it to you after that. So, thank you.
Yep, and Michael will be onboarding tomorrow, so access to the Munis, the computers, we have an email. So we're really looking forward to working and collaborating with TMS. I think it's going to be a great process. And they also offer, as I said, a lot of other services for us. As we know, it's going to be a challenging budget year. I think all across the country and in Massachusetts. So I think having a team approach, especially with us in the middle of negotiations of 3 different contracts, I'm really looking forward to partnering and working with this group, because I think they're going to be able to provide a lot of support for us, especially for this year.
That is somewhere where the team approach comes in, because normally I don't get involved in the business side. My expertise is in communications and strategy, but part of that where I get involved is the budget presentations. So I lend that storytelling so you guys can better present in plain language to the community why the budget is what it is, how you're going about it, and what you're looking to do with it.
Great.
So I don't know how limited we are, but is the plan to also have TMS staff attend some of our school committee meetings related to the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So on site, 2 days a week, but any other time we need them for night presentations, city council meetings, things like that.
And really, we're available 24/7, even though we're not here those other days. We're still doing all of the normal functions. We're just doing it somewhere else. It's that hybrid approach nobody wants to talk about anymore because we had enough of it. But for us, we've been doing it since 2005.
Yep.
And it happens to work really well for this because there's plenty of stuff that the business office just does. And it doesn't matter where they do it or how. All that matters is how they do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Question?
Yeah, I imagine thank you for being here, and we're thrilled you're taking over mid-season. So I was just curious if you could speak to some of the hurdles or challenges that you often come across taking over the budget mid-year.
Some of it, and Michael can certainly speak more of it than I can, but some of it involves just integrating into those systems. Every district does things differently. There are similarities, certainly, but sliding into that, understanding those challenges, our specialty is getting up to speed. We have seen just about everything in every different combination. So it's a matter of finding out, okay, so this is what's going on, this is how you've solved it in the past, this is what your budget is. We've seen that here, but parts of it here, and integrating those solutions together, and kind of coming up with what that process is, and working within what your normal process is, so it's not unfamiliar. We don't want to spend a lot of time saying, hey, this is how we're going to do it now. We want to say more about this is why we're doing what we're doing within what you already do.
Thank you. That's really reassuring. Hopefully our process isn't too idiosyncratic.
It probably isn't. Like I said, we've seen a lot, and even if it is idiosyncratic, we've seen those too.
That's great.
We're all set. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in tonight.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
The tradition, Mike, is the new guy brings the bagels in the morning. So I'm not sure if Kaylee told you that.
Nice. Capital improvement plan review. Are we still, is this needed, the screen needed for this presentation?
Did you, Mr. McSween?
We weren't able to get a country, but you have the...
They have the packet.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
The only thing I don't have that I was going to show tonight was just some pictures of some of the stuff that we're going to be looking forward to coming up in the future, as well as some kind of updated pictures for the hot water heater. So going through, we all know the capital improvement plan updated annually. It's a 5-year plan. Basically same stuff. It's all physical plant, not recurring. And this year, the city's got a new method of going through and inputting things into the capital improvement plan. So right now, I'm in the process of going through everything that's been presented in the past and trying to input it into that new kind of protocol to get a scoring for each one of the items that we've kind of put through in the past. So right now, that's kind of where I'm at with all of that. If we go back and look at things that have been done since, kind of before I got here and kind of moving forward. So things that were on the list from last year, the elevator controls at the high school have been completed. Right now, the high school roof, we're in the MSBA process. We're still moving forward with that and looking forward to working with them to hopefully push that through and get those roofs replaced. The pickup truck, luckily we got that through, and our technician's driving around in that now, so that'll be great coming up this winter because we did get it with a plow package. So we didn't have to buy another plow, we just got it prepped with the package so we can utilize it going forward with that. Security upgrades for all the schools has been completed, so the card access, the security cameras, as well as the alarm system portion of it has all been completed. So luckily we're all 100% on that now. And the building automation system was another big upgrade that actually got completed before I got here, and has been doing some finishing touches, little program changes, little idiosyncrasies that kind of come through with any kind of software upgrade. Some things we're going to be looking forward for is some engineering and planning for the high school. That's looking at the science labs and usage and feasibility for that, and as well as the arts department downstairs. So going to be looking for that. One of the things that was in there was for flooring in the library, was to replace the carpeting. I've kind of looked at it and updated that to just be high school flooring, and looking at the library carpeting, as well as the carpeting in the main office, and as well as the flooring when you come in the main entrance, that kind of concrete area where the 2 ramps come up to each side. It's in need of some attention. So we need to look at, not just doing one space, but holistically, how can we package some stuff together and maybe even get some better pricing by doing multiple spots at the same time. The Knockmullen Playground repaving, that's actually going to hopefully get a CPC funding for that. I've been working with Kim Turner and the Department of Public Services on that. That was a request that came through to look at that, so that's a possibility for that one. Knockmullen, and not just on Knockmullen, but also the Bresnahan and the high school kitchen equipment. We've been able to, in the past, get some grants and some funding, so we have some money available for that, and we'll be using that grant funding to replace some of the equipment that's been aging and failing as of recently. So we're continuously working on that. Energy reduction was something that was completed before I got here, so I can't really talk too much about that. The integrated art space renovation at the high school, again, that's something we're moving forward with. I know it was part of a larger plan to start, and we've been kind of taking small chunks of it. Right now, we're going to be looking at one room on the first floor over by the auditorium. We're renovating one space in conjunction with the NEF. They're funding that one, so thank God for them. And moving forward with that, once we get that space done, we're going to try to do some moving around in the current college and career counseling center. We're going to try to reimagine that and the current IT space into a music area for the band, so some practice rooms and kind of work with that. All right. And unfortunately, I didn't print the other page. Oh, nope, there it is. Sorry. And again, the use and feasibility study, again, the science wing, the arts areas down on the first floor, the ground floor. The mole and playground, that's going to be something that we're really going to need to look at. If you go out there now, you look at it, it's still the old mulch. And unfortunately, we keep, working with DPS. Thank you for their support. We keep putting more mulch there. And because of the poor drainage back there, it keeps washing away. Every time we get heavy rains, it kind of floods, becomes unusable. So we really need to be looking at that, as well as the equipment, the aged equipment. From my understanding, a lot of that equipment was brought over from the old Brown School and the old Bresnahan School. So some of that equipment is aging, and that really needs to be engineered and designed and really looked at with the new port-in-place rubber surfacing. So that's going to be kind of a multi-phase project where the first year we'll ask for some money for some engineering and design work, and then for the future to actually get the money to do the playground itself. Bresnahan playgrounds, that's something we're going to be looking for very, very soon. That was going to be some pictures I was going to show you. If you go out there and look, that port-in-place rubber, it's been there since the building was put up, and it's been 20 years. It's kind of reached the end of its life. It needs to be...
Only 10 years.
Oh, it's only been 10 years? Okay. It's got about a 15-year life, but I think it's kind of reaching there. If you go over there now and you look, there's some spots where it's actually come up. There's some holes. It's a lot of cracking. Under the usage areas, it's really in rough shape, and it's becoming kind of a safety issue. So we're going to be looking for some money in the very near future to get that done. The other thing I'm going to be looking for really coming up in the near future, if not this year, is the exterior masonry repairs at the high school. Anybody that's been up there recently, gone up the ramps, you can see the concrete is really deteriorating. The ramp on the front of the school, on the library side, the auditorium side, I question whether it would meet ADA at this point because there's so many cracks and divots along it. I think somebody trying to come up with a wheelchair would have a really hard time. The whole front patio, there's some spots where it looks like it was trying to be repaired. They just didn't take. The whole right side of the building, I think it's the west side, going down by the parking lot, going towards the field, there's a whole set of staircase that's unusable, and we actually have blocked off because the concrete has just deteriorated. The stairs are unsafe. That whole top kind of mezzanine level, the concrete's really falling apart, and as well as the brickwork. If you go and you look, some of it's actually pulling apart from the building, and some of the spires coming up. If you look where the roll-up doors, you can see part of one of the spires that holds the railing is actually pulling away. It's really going to become a safety issue. The whole area needs to be looked at as far as where the water's going, how it's getting away, and I think that's what's causing 90% of the damage out there is just the water infiltration coming down and through that whole West Terrace side. So in looking at this list, the high school exterior and the Bresnahan playground would be two of my top with anything with our CIP moving forward. The high school auditorium, again, hopefully, moving forward with the MSBA, we can get that roof replaced. Once that's done, move back inside and do a lot of the repair work that's been caused by all this water infiltration from the roof. So that'll be something else moving forward. And then kind of looking years out, the electrification of the high school. We just had the water heater fail. We've got that replaced, but in looking at the boilers, they're 20 years old. The chillers, they're 20 years old. They're reaching the end of their life cycle. They're very old, they're very inefficient, and I think looking forward, we need to be looking at that building as a whole. The building's not going anywhere. It's a great building. Everybody loves the building. It's got a lot of use left in it, but what can we do to the infrastructure to make it last for another 50, 100 years? What can we do to make it more energy efficient? And I think that's what we need to be looking at, and whether we look at with the MSBA, some energy grants, energy rebates, kind of thing like that, we need to be looking forward for the high school and what we can do to move that forward. And then the last one was the phone system, which we were able to get done over the summer, thanks to the hard work of our IT department. They were able to push that through and able to get that all done. So. That's my.
Take some questions?
I got it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you spoken with Kim Turner or anybody else about doing more than just repaving the non-mown playground? Because it's just a parking lot, really. It's not a playground.
Yeah, so the whole idea, and we were talking with Kim about this, was to reclaim it, repave it, restripe it, new basketball hoops, new posts, redoing the Foursquare, and really looking at that whole area and working with the principals on what they might be looking for as far as, games that can be painted on the ground. I know Foursquare is a big game over there for them. It's been mentioned to me many, many times, so I know we're going to be looking at doing that over there.
Is there a requirement for just plain asphalt on that for actual parking, or can we make it like a basketball court surface? I don't remember seeing a car there ever, but it was.
No, but that's more of a cost thing.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, when you get into those sport courts and the sport, it increases the cost quite a bit. So.
And there's other things too, like shade things.
Mm-hmm.
Towards the end of the year, it's just a baking asphalt square.
I would worry about putting shade in that area because of the ball play and everything else that happens over that area.
There are sections where kids just hang out.
Yeah.
They're not all playing sports or whatever. It'd be nice to.
I would look more of the shade area for back in the actual playground and maybe some smaller stuff moving forward. But
I guess I don't know who plays out there. It's the older kids who play in that part, and the Mullen kids play in the back.
Yeah, right. That's my understanding. Yes.
And some of that Mullen playground stuff is from when Bresnahan was barely finished. So that's 9 years old too, right? That should the newer, brighter stuff towards the ramp probably shouldn't have to be replaced at this point. It's not even 10 years old.
We'll have to look and see what the age of it is, and unfortunately, sometimes when you get into playgrounds, once you tear stuff out to actually try to reinstall it, and get it re-inspected by the certified playground safety inspector,
Yep.
And you get into all that, sometimes it's not even worth it to kind of keep it, and over time. Playgrounds change. New things come out, new designs come out. So when you look at the whole area, is it worth to keep one thing when the rest of it's going to be different? And how we're going to lay all that out. And I think that's why we need to really look at hiring a playground architect, a landscape architect to come in and work with us and work with the faculty and the administrations down at the Mullen to see, what could we put down there? Space is limited. What can we put down there? What would the kids like to use? Sometimes it's not worth putting something in if no one's going to use it.
Right. And the last question is the sidewalks there. Was one of the sidewalks, Sean, being paid for by the tennis court?
Yeah,
money?
that's
that whole line, that whole row?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there going to be a curb installed there?
No.
So it's just right from the parking lot onto the sidewalk? The reason I say that is because it's always plowed over.
I'm sorry, there is a curb on that side, yes, on the parking lot.
Because right now, there's not been.
There isn't.
There is
It's
nothing,
dirt.
yes.
Right.
I'm sorry, yes, there is. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anybody's been down there, that project's been moving along.
Yeah.
They're going to be paving that starting on the 12th. So starting on the 12th, they're going to put the binder coat down, they'll put all the fence posts in, and that's where the project will stop for the winter. And then come back in the spring when we get some nicer weather, they'll top coat it, and then they'll seal coat it, put the lines in, and then put the fencing in last. So,
thanks.
Ms. Walker?
Yeah, so I appreciate what Member Callahan brought up about, thinking maybe a little bit more creatively about some of those spaces and not just, and I think you've said this already, but not just replacing in kind and thinking more as a campus what we can do to support, for example, place-based education. This has come up a few times in some of our comments and input from parents, and I know Kim Turner as a parent, has also been proposing this for the Knockmollen for years. So I think thinking about that area at the Knockmollen, but also thinking about the Bresnahan and thinking about as we improve things and as we replace things, having a vision for those campuses overall. And maybe it doesn't all happen at once, but it happens over time. And I'm all for eliminating as much pavement as we can. I know the students do activities that require some hard surfaces, but thinking about, not just having a single use for those surfaces, I'm going to just bring up the traffic garden idea that I shared earlier. There's just creative ways you can use those spaces, I'm sure you know. So getting someone in who has some expertise, I fully agree with that, and also the stakeholders, the teachers, and the students getting input, and parents getting input going forward. I really like that approach. I know there's some immediate needs, and I'm not trying to discourage doing those immediate needs, but I do think thinking more comprehensively about these campuses and what we can do to make them, 21st century play spaces.
And in working with Kim, I think one of the things we've been talking about with the Knockmollen, the basketball court area is not just doing a blacktop, actually putting a colored coating down and putting some lines. So it won't just be the hot blacktop. I did a project in Andover at the West Middle School where we did the same kind of thing, where we took and we recoated it and repainted it and put some nice lines in. We added some games. We actually added some track lines so the kids could race, and did a lot of things like that. It really helped them out a lot. So I think working with Kim, we can definitely do something like that.
Great.
I have a question from the FY24 district priority list, just a clarification where it says NHS engineering planning, 80,000. What is that? Is that in reference to the roof or the masonry or what?
That was the science lab.
Science, yeah.
Oh, that's the science lab. Okay.
Actually, I think that was there's a separate item that's on the.
There's two. There's engineering and then there's a feasibility. So
Right.
there's kind of both in there. Feasibility is what can we be doing with these spaces,
Right.
and then engineering is what should we be doing as a whole in the building. You know what I mean?
Because I know in the past
As
we've
a
been
whole.
trying to get money for engineering around some of these other issues that are listed below. So I just wanted to make sure.
From what I recollect from the last time we talked about the engineering planning, was thinking more. It was originally proposed for one specific project, but thinking more comprehensively about the facility,
We had
the
talked
building
about
as
that.
a whole. I think that's what that was my impression.
Right,
And
that
I
was-
think that if we look back at the description, that's what it was.
Okay, so in other words, this isn't something we could tie into the MSBA grant. That's why I was asking. This is separate. Yeah. Okay.
I think that's what Steve wanted to hire that engineering firm, like to just be part of taking a look at all of our buildings and structures for, preventive maintenance, saying, hey, this is going, you're going to need to replace that. So, and I think the other piece is looking at those science labs, although it's not part of the MSBA, but if we are going to bring an engineering firm on to have them look at those spaces and kind of reimagine, because we have the space in those labs, can we, upgrade those without having to do a major project. So.
And having an engineering firm come in and give us life cost cycles of all of our, not just the mechanical equipment, but windows and facades and roofs and kind of everything as a whole. We're flooring everything, where we're at, and what we can kind of anticipate over the next 5, 10, 15 years for capital plans that we need to start looking at.
That sounds great. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in with, I know that Newburyport Rec and Youth Services has got an initiative around free play for kids when they're home. If there could be components, again, I know it would involve the faculty and the administrators coming up with ideas, but so that there would be carryover activities. And one thing doesn't require any hot top, a Gaga pit. That
I know
would
the
be,
Bresnahan
that would be
has one,
clutch.
and I thought
Gaga.
somebody mentioned one for the Knockmollen.
Oh, really? That would, for the Mullen, yeah, I would think the Mullen would be the
Can you
primary.
fill the rest of us in?
Gaga pit? It's sort of like Gladiator, but in a very toned down way. And kids really manage each other within it. And at the family camp, which is kind of hippie camp for families, so it's very cool. It's very user friendly. Nobody's going to get hurt.
It's a large octagonal ring, and the kids get in and they have a ball.
Right.
And if they have to keep it low, and the ball can only hit you from the knee down.
Yeah.
And if it hits you from the knee down, you're out, and it's all, hands and.
I like that description better than this like gladiator.
Well, I'm
In watching my daughter play and watching kids play at the campground, it does get.
Is this the same as like frog? Because that's
It'd be gladiator.
at Perkins.
Isn't it just
Yeah.
like dodgeball light?
It says frog.
But it's in a confined
there's a
space.
Yeah.
It's not as, and you're only using the palm of your hand.
That's where the light
Yes.
Pick it up and
Yeah.
throw
Not gonna
it.
hug
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
You can't pick up and throw the ball. Which
Those
is,
are the best.
hitting the ball over.
Sounds good.
But you can't keep kids out of a Gaga.
No.
It will be
Yep.
definitely utilized.
Yeah.
It's Gaga is the pickleball for young kids.
So true.
We're training them.
And I think when you're looking at play space and you're looking at playgrounds, the more input you have from people, whether it's the teachers, the phys ed teachers, the administrators and parents, and even the students. I've done projects in the past where we've actually taken designs and brought them into a classroom and showed different pictures to the kids and see what their reactions are, just to see, are we on the right track? Is this something the kids are going to like? I mean, I'm almost 50 years old. Stuff I like isn't going to be the stuff that the 6-year-old's going to like. So how do we incorporate all that in and go into the classrooms and work with the kids?
Great.
Mr. Sweeney, on the, I know it's a long way off, and it's a project in process with the MSBA, but are the roofs sort of still tracking along that
Yes.
estimate? Just under 5 million total. Hard to say.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, until we get assigned our OPM and our actual
Sure.
engineer, that's a good guess for me right now.
Okay. There's no reason to think that it's increased at this point. I totally
Again,
understand.
yeah,
You understand where
I have a
I'm
hard time
at.
throwing numbers at things right now, especially not having kind of their expertise behind me.
Thanks.
Okay. Yes, go
May I
ahead.
offer just a suggestion along those lines, maybe for the assistant superintendent, but you just gave me this idea that I've seen in another elementary school where they actually created a whole unit project for like the second and third graders to design a playground. And it actually worked out amazingly well, that it was interdisciplinary, that they read all about playground designs and what makes a good playground and what kids like. Then they had to go out and interview their classmates, their teachers, their parents, and so they learned interviewing skills and how to design questions and take notes on what it is that they said. Then they wrote up a report, and then it actually branched into art class. And in art, they had to create their playgrounds out of modeling clay and other things, and then they presented it to the community. And so I know we're already halfway through the year, but that would be pretty, it would just be a cool experience if this is something where, you're actually looking at in real life anyway, and just to get their ideas from kids.
Yeah. Great suggestion.
Vice Chair Hall, I just had a question on the time frame, Superintendent, for capital improvement. So will we see a final version of what's being presented to the City Council for this budget? And that would be later in the year, like in the spring, right? Or the part of the
Usually
budget
like February,
process.
March, we
Yeah,
do
okay.
the whole night of the capital improvement.
Okay, but Mr. Sweeney, I think you said initially you're thinking the ones that are probably going to bubble to the surface priority-wise are, you said the playground repairs, I can't remember, I'm sorry, and the NHS exterior repairs?
Yes,
Okay.
and again, going through the list and starting to do the grading and scoring.
Right, you don't know for sure yet, yeah.
Those are the two that, in my eyes, are the ones that are really going to bubble too.
Okay. Sounds good.
And, they're, in my eyes, they're the ones that are posing the most safety risk for myself,
Right.
and looking at the district.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're all set, so we're going to go on to the high school water heater update. So maybe you just stay right there, Mr. Sweeney. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have hot water. As of last Tuesday afternoon, the new hot water heater was installed and is up and running. So for just your reference, the old hot water heater that was there was 750-gallon tank. And essentially it was a giant tank, and in the middle was a fire. There was a big tube and the burner gun at the end and a big fire in the middle. And what happened was the big tube where the fire goes got a hole, and all the water went into that destroyed the gun, destroyed the whole thing. It was unrepairable. What we have in that unit, and looking up all the numbers, was only rated for about 83 to 85% efficiency at best. We now have a high condensing, high efficiency, Energy Star rated boiler that operates at about 97% efficiency and is only 150 gallons. So it's got a high impact turnover rate, and it can do the same amount of hot water as the large tank. But now we're running 97% efficiency. We're not heating almost 800 gallons of water every time that gun fires, and it's a really nice unit. So not only is it better for the school, I think, but it's also energy-wise, we're in a lot better place. So.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment and thank Mr. McSweeney and the team for expediting, this project. He did a lot of work getting this up and running, because you gotta have hot water in a school, or you can't.
Yeah, it's
open
actually
schools.
it's part of the health and building code that we had to have hot water, so it wasn't really. Unfortunately, it wasn't really an option for us to wait. We had to get it done. And I got a great team behind me with our maintenance staff and custodians and everybody, so we were lucky enough to be able to get it done.
Excellent, great job. What is the grace period there? Like, if you run out of hot water, how long do you have to get it back online without falling out of compliance?
Technically 0. Yeah,
It's
it's part of our
for
building
reference.
certificate, and
Yeah, for the other buildings.
Yeah, if you look at the Mass State regulations, it says, there shall be hot water available at all times. So, we were kind of in a rock and a hard place on that one. So, but like I said, we are back up and running. We do have hot water, and the kitchen ladies don't have to carry buckets of hot water across the kitchen anymore.
Great news.
Yep.
I know some athletes that are very happy. They don't take cold showers.
Cold showers.
That's not fun.
So, Superintendent, next steps?
So I think as part of this, it's the payment, and I know we had a lot of correspondence through email just regarding the payments for the water heater. So we got from our legal, and also Andy Paquette, who is the business person, and then also talked to Jay Sullivan, who's the associate chief finance officer at DESE regarding funds, and I know school choice was mentioned, but from those three opinions, that this wouldn't fall. This is a capital project that school choice funds. It doesn't fit. It wouldn't be available to utilize school choice funds for this. But I know there's a discussion tonight for school committee to put that on the table. I think that's where we're at.
I'm not going to die on this hill, but I think everyone knows, I think school choice absolutely could be used for this, and I know it's more of a philosophy thing, I guess. For me, looking at all of our city departments, if there's a funding mechanism there for a department to use, I think that should be used first before we go to our free cash, which again is limited this year. So, like I said, I'm happy to just do my vote, and you guys can vote and do whatever you like. I have passed a different opinion on to the city council around what I got from the city solicitor, which says we absolutely can use, it's up to us what we use our school choice funds on. So, again, it's going to be a discussion for the city council, but I just think if we have the money, we've already done it, we should just pay for it, and then if we have to go to city council down, if we use those funds up, then we go back to city council for that. But that's just my philosophy on it.
So, is it all right if I?
Yep, but do you need me to stay up here?
Oh, no,
Okay.
no.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Sweeney, before you...
Hold on, can we, Vice Chair Hall, do you want to pick who speaks
I did want to
next?
say something,
Yeah,
if that's
thank you.
okay.
Sorry, just while he's here, do we
Yeah.
know the number?
Can we go through the Vice Chair, just for protocol?
Yeah. Is it
Okay,
okay if we
so
ask Mr. McSweeney?
You want to
stay for a
ask
minute?
Mr.
Yes.
McSweeney a question before we
Correct.
let him
Yeah.
have a seat? Go ahead.
Is that okay? Thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate it. And do we know the number for the...
It was just under $160,000.
Okay, great, thank you. Thanks for coming back.
159 and some change, but yeah, just under
So,
160.
good estimate there. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just I want to make sure that I understand. I have the message in front of me that you sent, and the quote in here seems to be expressing the same opinion that we received from the superintendent. So maybe I just don't understand it. But this is a quote from the DESE Advisory Memorandum, and it says, therefore, allowable expenditures, including any expenditures for staff, materials, equipment, or services that directly enhance the quality of a district's educational programs and benefit students who currently attend a district school. So that seems to me similar to what you were saying about how school choice funds should be used in those instances where they directly enhance the quality of a district's educational programs. And a capital repair doesn't fall into that. So I guess I'm not really understanding how this legal opinion, this is.
I know, but I'm saying,
is
the first
different.
sentence before that says, school funds for any expenditure related to schools, including building maintenance, says it can use it under Mass General Law. So, I mean, this is saying, what you just read is saying, it's not saying you can't use it for it, it's saying.
That's what's recommended.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, it's an
Okay.
opinion, like, it's fine, but like, I read that you can use it for capital. Which again,
Okay.
I think this is
specifically
capital.
say that, but
Yeah.
go ahead, Ms.
Did
Walker.
you have something else to say? I'm sorry, I didn't mean
No,
to cut you
it was just this.
Just the question? Okay, sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's good.
I think I agree with the mayor that we should be creative and not automatically, say no to use of school choice funds. However, I think there's a couple of things I'm thinking. I want to make sure we talk about. First of all, it's up to the school committee how we use school choice funds. It's not up to city council how we use school choice funds. And I think if this is going to go in front of the city council, we need to vote as a group to also share why we are, whatever we decide tonight, why we are making that decision, whether it's informed by the legal opinion of our council. We as a school committee have a legal counsel that personally, I think we should defer to and not rely on a non-school committee counsel. And that's just my opinion. I think there's a reason we have legal counsel for the school committee. I think if you asked anybody, they would say you should defer to your legal counsel for the school committee. I think the other thing is we have two other opinions that sort of influence my view that from a financial management standpoint, making a direct correlation between our approval of school choice funds and the benefit and the enhancement of student education and those things that support student education. A water heater is an essential thing for a Capitol building that is a public building. We use our public school buildings for many community needs. That water heater serves all those needs, not just the students' needs. I think, Mayor, and I appreciate that you made this comparison. You compared it to the use of school funds for security upgrades. Personally, I think that's an enhancement of our students' environment for teaching. That we're making it more secure for the students and for the teachers and the staff that support those students. I think that's an enhancement of their education. I don't think a basic thing like a water heater to me, and again, I'm putting on my school committee hat. I'm not putting on my city council hat. I'm putting on my school committee hat and saying we have an obligation to manage school choice funds per where our legal requirement is, and it's up to us to decide ultimately how those school choice funds are used. I hope we don't get put into a situation where we have to use them as an emergency, because I don't think that that should be the reason we use them, because I think we have to make sure we feel confident that it fits into that category of what school choice funds can be used for. It may be that if the city council doesn't approve free cash, we're going to have to find this money elsewhere, and I hope that isn't what it comes down to, because that would require cutting other things. But right now, the way I'm looking at it, we have a legal opinion from our school attorney, and we have two other opinions, and we have one that's based on budget practices, and we have a recommendation from the superintendent and the building and the facility manager. And I feel strongly that I will not vote to support use of school funds at this time for a water heater.
Can I just say one thing to that? I would suggest we get a formal opinion. I don't think what we got from any of these legal things are formal opinions. So I think if we're going to submit something to council to back up what you all decide here, I think you don't need an email. You need a formal opinion that states the laws that they're. I don't think an email counts.
If I could respond to that, I think so. I don't know what you mean by formal opinion, but every time we go to our city attorney or school attorney, it costs us money.
Sure.
And I think an email validate an email from the attorney, and we can vote to release that if we want to the city council. To me, that's an opinion from our legal counsel. I don't know that unless the school attorney has said otherwise, I don't know that we need a formal opinion. I think we've gotten an opinion in that format, and I think we can rely on that. I don't know that we need an analysis or a legal back and forth, because it costs us money to do those things.
It was my understanding that that was a formal opinion in the email, and it did say that if we wanted to share that, we just would vote
That's fine.
to do so.
I'm just talking from experience, that's all.
Go ahead.
I agree about depending on how it goes, we vote to release that, confidential information. I may die on this hill. I respect the mayor or any mayor's position in a city like ours, where they're the chair and they're responsible for all of everything else happening in the city. But the school committee, or I guess me personally as a member, while I want to make sure we have nice streets and all those other things, the only thing I care about sitting at this table is the money that goes to be spent on schools. And I find that the water heater is the same as the elevator emergency repair. That's where I see it, and I think our choice funds are dwindling anyway. We've been paring them down, which is ironically is what a lot of the city council wanted us to do in the first place. And now I think they're too low. I think it was the recommended thing was no lower than $340,000 or something. And we'll get close, and if we drop another 160, I'm uncomfortable using it just in that manner. Not alone, let alone for what we think it's meant to be for. But I really don't think that any of us, none of whom are lawyers, correct? No one here is a JD, should be opining about what we think the legal opinion should be. And I know we've actually fought with city council in the past where our lawyer said X and they said Y, and we were like, well, the lawyers can fight it out then. None of us can really make an opinion on what they said. So, respectfully to the mayor, I will definitely vote no to use school choice on the water heater.
Anyone else like to weigh in? Mr. Boger?
Without an exact figure, do you know where we're at in school choice funds?
I think this year, going into our budget, we've allocated, earmarked around $700,000 to be spent this year. So typically, we utilize school choice towards the end, especially for the summer salaries. So we offset the city allocation with school choice, and I think we've increased it more than we ever have. So
we can go over that at the meeting next Thursday too, and then present.
Correct.
Here's the balance and expected expenditures.
Are Mr. Callahan's numbers roughly correct?
What was?
I was saying no. That the recommended staying balance is roughly $300,000. You don't want to go below that.
Right.
So towards the end, correct.
No, I'm saying that if we take $160,000 out of what is currently already earmarked, we're going to be that much lower.
Right.
Okay.
But we'll get the full exact
numbers.
Yeah.
And you'll be there.
And I think there's
back in time to have
there's
There's
a couple points too. Talking to our attorney and then also understanding and the city solicitor, we were referred to talk to Jay Sullivan's. DESE is the ones that recommend how you spend school choice. And so we got email from Jay, but then I talked to Jay personally. And just in both communications that you received, his opinion, the municipality provides the building for the schools to operate as required by Chapter 71, Section 68. And then Jay Sullivan agreed with Andy Paquette. The use of school choice funds for security upgrades is not the same level that falls under operations as a water heater, which is the basic infrastructure repair. So basically, we could not have any security cameras in any of our public buildings and still open up the building to run school. You can't open up a building without hot water. And I think that's the difference between the capital expense and operations. Operations is enhancing the educational process for everybody, and then capital is the things you need to open up the building. And that's pretty clear cut. So our attorneys said, reach out to DESE, run the scenario by them, because they're the ultimate guidance on how you spend school choice and how you don't. So that's kind of where we landed. And then I also want to, of all of the years of utilizing school choice, we have a lot of challenges that we know we're going to face, right? Like, for example, we know the federal government, with the new administration, they're talking about cuts to Title I, to a lot of federal grants, to a lot of federal monies that we have utilized in the past to offset the city appropriations, right? So, for example, let's just say Title I gets cut. And Title I is, we utilize that for personnel for our reading services. So if that gets cut by $100,000 or $120,000, that's 2 teachers right now that are teaching our youngest students. We could utilize having, school choice funds. If that gets cut, instead of losing those services, it would give us flexibility to utilize those. So I think with negotiations, with the uncertainty what's going to happen with federal grants, for us to spend down the school choice to a point where we're not going to have that available, and then go to city council, for example, and say, hey, I need 2 staff members for $160,000 to teach students how to read. I don't foresee that. I foresee that as being problematic. So I think we should be very cautious, especially this year of all of the years, looking at school choice. So that's just my opinion there.
Yes, Ms. Higgins.
I try to take a very pragmatic approach to these things, especially finances. In this case, really, even aside from if the school budget was flush with cash and we weren't even spending all of our Chapter 70 dollars, that would be problematic in its own right. However, I really do believe that capital improvements are a city responsibility. It's just the way that the law is written, and philosophically, I just feel that it should be a city responsibility to take care of the buildings. And so all those other, the budgets being tight, I think are important considerations, but for me, it's the city's responsibility to take care of this, necessary capital improvements, and we need to save school choice funds for more student-related items.
Anyone else? Are we prepared to make a motion?
So I guess I have a question. I mean, if somebody would have to move to use school choice funds, that would be the motion. And frankly, I don't know who would make that motion. It doesn't sound like there's anyone ready to make that motion unless the mayor is ready to make that motion. I think it's likely it's not going to pass, but I don't want to speak for everyone. At this point, the plan is to go to the city council for free cash, to use free cash, hopefully, or some other source. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to dictate it. However, I guess I would defer to the mayor in terms of, would it be more straightforward for you to have us vote on the use of school choice so that you have that vote to share with the city council along with our reasoning? Or, how, I guess, what would be, understanding that you may not support that vote, I get that, but.
Yeah, no, I feel like you guys should take the vote on how you want to take it. I mean, I just want to let you guys know where I was coming from.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to be the lone survivor here. But, I think, you'll make your case up to the city council, that's all.
Well, then, Superintendent, would it be easier for you to have a vote from us saying that we do or do not want to use school choice funds for this purpose, and with the supporting argument to it?
I think so. I mean,
I honestly doesn't think it matters.
What's that? Yeah.
You don't think it matters?
No, because I mean, you're going to make a motion to do something that you don't want to do anyways, just to do it. I think city council's going to think that's kind of silly.
Well, it's not. I mean, you don't make a negative motion. Someone would
Right.
make a motion to use school choice funds, and then we would vote on it. I mean, that's a pretty straightforward vote. It's not like we make a motion not to vote for school choice funds.
No.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to say, this was a doomed vote anyways, and they did it just to do it.
Yeah, it's more just procedural to show that, document that we considered it and don't feel that it's an appropriate use of
Spend
funding.
some time talking about it.
Yeah.
Can we take a vote to release the legal opinion, which I do think was quite comprehensive?
I think we should do that.
Is that,
The email?
Yeah.
Is that something
You
we
can do
could do tonight?
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, it fits in the context of this agenda item, so if that's something people are comfortable with. Has everyone had a chance to review that? I know it came out over the holidays there last week. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I would make a motion to direct the superintendent to work with the school attorney to release the correspondence shared with the school committee related to school choice funds.
Second.
Discussion.
I would just follow up that if, per the mayor's opinion, or per the mayor's comment, just clarifying with the school attorney what could be considered how we phrase it, but it's sharing of an email is fine with me. I don't think we need a formal opinion.
I think the superintendent made a compelling case, and 4 or 5 members did as well, so I'm perfectly willing to support that. And the guidance and the opinion seemed convincing. The other opinion came later, so that was good to see as well on balance. So I do support that, all that was said along the way. I would also like to say that we should be cognizant in supporting the mayor as much as possible in the rest of the school budget year, as we've all sort of acknowledged and even stated out loud that it's going to be a very challenging year. And I commend him for trying to be budget conscious for the city and for the schools in this case.
I would just love to see this spirit of collaboration when I talk about doing a facilities team for the city and how it's city buildings and not just school and city. I didn't see that last time we had that conversation, so maybe if we have that conversation later this year, you guys will think twice about that.
I think we have to have a real conversation about it. We didn't really have a conversation.
Okay.
So I'm open to that. I guess just following up, though, I mean, I do want to I think we're just talking about the one motion, so I don't want to muddy the waters, but I do think Mayor, thinking about how this is going to get presented to the city council and the superintendent is going to be there as well, if it would help to have had that definitive decision from the school committee on school choice. Just think about that for a second.
So once we've released it, then that's something that could be sent to the city council, potentially in their packet for their next meeting, or whatever we think is appropriate?
I would say you submit that as a communication to the city council.
Okay.
Because the transfer is just going to come in as a transfer. I've got to sign off on it, but
Okay.
that's coming from the
So
finance
that, I
office.
mean, I think that's going to be the most meaningful way to communicate, the discussion that we've had tonight, is through that, releasing that. So I support that as well. Any other comments for discussion?
No,
Paul?
I just
Go
want,
ahead.
just for the presentation at City Council, James McSweeney and myself presenting that, or is it?
This isn't my thing, so I don't know.
Okay, so we'll present and then,
Most likely, they will send it to Budget and Finance.
Okay.
They only have one meeting in December, so you're probably talking about January something.
Okay.
And Sharif will reach out about that and probably invite you to a Budget and Finance meeting. That's my guess.
okay.
Because they'll just send that to committee on December 16th. They're actually meeting the same night as our second meeting this month.
I have that under new business to
Okay.
move our meeting, so we'll get to that.
Would
Yeah.
that fall under emergency procurement? Or,
That's up to you. That's not
I mean, for the City Council?
Not unless you say you need it in an emergency, but
Okay.
you would have to make that case probably to Ethan Manning
Okay, yeah.
and ask for that. They'd have
See
to
if we can
waive
get on.
rules to do that, but otherwise, you're right, it won't be till mid-January before they actually take a vote on it.
Right, so we gotta pay the
Seems to me like
people.
it's an emergency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
You
it,
could make a case for that.
yeah. And I just wanted to, once again, thanks James for keeping
Yeah.
our schools open.
Exactly.
Because technically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I'll reach out to Ethan, and then if we can get on the school, city council agenda, then we'll present. And then James had some great pictures of the whole kind of what happened to tell the story. So there was no preventative maintenance on this thing. You never would have saw the damage because it was inside the tube. So I think that will be compelling.
We do need to vote just to,
Yeah, that was just my
just to
discussion.
approve the motion, and then if there's more discussion about how this is going to work, that's fine.
Okay.
So again, we're voting on the motion to release the legal opinion on use of school choice funds. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And then,
Is there any opposed?
any opposed? I was looking, so, yeah.
Yeah, just a question for the superintendent. Practically speaking, with you, Mr. Masrini, how are we bridging the gap? I mean, presumably, we're now invoiced for the project.
Yes. So we, for the company we've worked with this company in the past somewhat, and they were.
Here he comes. Thank you.
So the contractor that did the work for us is JC Canestraro, and they're a vendor that we
You might need
use.
to
You do
just...
need to get the mic just for the.
So the vendor that we use
broadcast.
is JC Canestraro. They're a vendor for all of our HVAC and all of our big plumbing work that we do. We use a couple different vendors for plumbing, but with a job this big, we went with them. They're a very big company. They have their own plumbing department. They were able to procure the boiler for us very quickly and get the job done. So, like I said, they're a good vendor for us. They know the situation we're in. They're doing this to kind of help us out, and they're working with us. So,
Yeah, thank you.
but obviously, the sooner we can pay them, the better. But they know where we are. So.
Thank you.
Glad we have a good relationship.
So unfortunately, Member Callahan just left, but as I'm thinking about it, I don't know if others agree, but I feel better about taking a vote on the use of school choice funds, so we go on the record as how we feel about that. Unless, I mean, we don't have a request in front of us, so if others don't think it's appropriate, it's fine. But I just wanted to bring that up again.
I mean, I'd go either way. I don't, anyone else have thoughts about it? I'm open to it.
I guess I'm unclear about what the motion would be if nobody's bringing up the motion.
I could make the motion, but it would be to use school choice funds to fund the water heater. And then we would vote, obviously we'd vote to document that we don't support that.
I see. Okay.
But I'm also open to just waiting if people don't feel strongly about that.
Well, Mayor, to your point, it doesn't really seem like that's necessary.
No, like I said, it's just going to be a free cash transfer that goes to City Council.
Okay.
And we have the legal opinion.
All right.
And some sort of presentation will happen. And just, Superintendent, let us know, how school committee members can be supportive of that effort.
Okay.
All right. So I think we're going to move on to the FY26 budget timeline.
Well, I think you still have to vote to do the free cash transfer, right?
That's not our vote.
That's not our
So you're just going to
council.
submit that to Ethan for free cash?
Yeah, I think what we'll do is do like emergency procurement, capital expense, the water heater with the invoice, and then get on, I guess, the city council agenda.
Okay. I would think you'd have to vote on that, but that's fine. Either way, I have to sign it, so it doesn't matter to me. But
I don't know. Wouldn't that kind of be the same thing? The school committee couldn't dictate to city council, right?
no, it'd just be approving. I guess I thought we'd have to approve for you to ask for free cash since we oversee you, to make that request for free cash. But I could be completely wrong.
Well, if you think we should do that, it probably doesn't hurt while we're all here to do it.
No, I mean, I think it's fine. Like I said, it's essentially going to come from me anyways. Yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but that seems to be a request outside of school committee, so I just didn't know if you could just do that. I don't know.
What's the precedent for any other capital?
I can't think of anything off the top
Well,
of my
the
head.
elevator, I mean, we didn't vote
didn't vote
on
for
that.
that.
No, we didn't vote on that. And then
No, and that was a
we
very
presented.
similar thing where
Yeah.
it was like a
That's fine.
compliance
I don't remember
kind of thing.
not doing that, but okay.
Because it's not
I
our
think once
funds,
I get
it's
on
not our budget.
the agenda, then we make the case of capital improvement, emergency procurement. This is unavoidable.
Mhm.
I think that's what we did with the elevator too.
Okay.
Okay, all set then?
Yeah, I would just
Yeah.
suggest maybe you talk about it at your do you have a FinCom meeting this week?
Thursday.
Yeah.
No, next.
Next
Next
week,
Thursday.
but it will be before council meets.
Yeah, you might want to talk about and get the formal blessing of the
The
FinCom
process.
at least. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good. All right, all set? Okay, so Superintendent, you're going to go over the FY26 budget timeline. There's a draft in our packet.
Yeah, this is I think very similar. I mean, obviously, we've already done a few of these. So we had the joint meeting in November. Now we're beginning December, before the winter break, meeting with individual departments to start to develop our budget. Now that we also have TMS online starting this week, I think that will be helpful. So we're right on schedule. And then from there, in January, we typically present the preliminary budget or the first budget, what that's going to look like, level service. At that time in February, we're looking at finalized capital plan from Mr. McSweeney. And then from there, we just continue to give the budget update. In March is when the budget holders did their presentation to school committee. So that's when all the principals come in and then complete their asks. And then public hearing, beginning of April. And then from there, the end of April is final budget to the school committee. And then it's sent on. So I just wanted to, here's the kind of the draft of the work that's going to go on, but we're still on target, even though we've been in the transition from one business manager to the next. And I haven't, I don't foresee a lot of, staffing. I think we've done a good job to position ourselves over the past few years with staffing. So I think it's really looking at negotiations and things like that.
Great. Any questions for the superintendent about that? All right, thank you. I think we can go on then to the daycare update and donation.
Yes. So I provided additional information from last March when we had the discussion on the daycare. So Ms. Cayley and I have continued that work throughout, and the ultimate goal for us was to make this cost neutral or no cost to the district. So through some conversations, Ms. Cayley and I, but Ms. Cayley met with the board of directors from the Swayze Fund. I just want to read you what they wrote to us. The Swayze Fund Board of Directors has unanimously decided to make a generous distribution of $50,000 to benefit the current and future teachers of the Newburyport Public Schools to provide startup funds for an in-house daycare center. We know that many teachers in the district have expressed significant need in regards of affordable daycare for their children. This distribution will help meet the needs, in turn support to teachers who wish to continue working in the Newburyport Public Schools. The Swayze Fund is proud to be able to provide continued support to the teachers of the Newburyport Public Schools. Sincerely, the Swayze Fund Board of Directors. So this is, we're very excited and actually honored, and it really fits within the Swayze mission to support teachers of Newburyport Public Schools. So as you'll see in future meetings, daycare will be put up on the moving forward. So this is an initiative, but this funding will allow us to now begin to plan something that the district and the teachers have wanted for many, many years.
Did you say 15 or 50?
50. 50.
So are you projecting this for fall of 2025?
That's the game plan, to work the next few months and to have a program up and running in September.
This is really amazing, fantastic. I'm just curious, without the Swayze funds, would it have been possible?
So we would have probably, I know Ms. Cayley and myself were looking for donations because we could have rolled this into, I think, like a budget presentation, but I think what we really wanted to do is make this cost neutral. And so the startup, the key for us was to get the allocate startup funds to get the program up and running. So once it's up and running, the program will pay for itself. This funding will support a lot of that work. So like the equipment, the, remodeling the space that we're going to use.
One-time expenses.
One-time expenses.
And that's at the Bresnahan.
That'll be at the Bresnahan, correct.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love the idea that it gives the opportunity for high school students who want to explore early childhood, and I just think it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's going to be a great
amazing.
program, right? And we really want to thank Ipswich because we were over there multiple times. They've had this similar program running for over 20 years now. But also it ties in with pathways that we're establishing. So just like you said, early childhood, daycare. So we'll be able to really utilize some of the high school students too as part of the program, the seniors.
Oh, who wants to go?
Doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. I guess related to the Swayze donation, if I know you said it was to sort of seed money, really to start planning. If for some reason we are not able to start the daycare program or it goes away, is there any problem with the donation?
No, so we already have the Swayze funds, so they
Yep.
do a lot of the professional development. So this will just allocate the $50,000 to a line item for daycare only. So it'll sit there until we need it. Yeah.
But even if we use it and then if it ceases to exist, it's not like we're going to be penalized by Swayze Foundation?
No.
Okay.
No.
I have a couple of questions just about the daycare program as a whole. How many classrooms do you plan on having, or utilizing for this?
Classrooms for the daycare?
Yeah.
It's actually, we're going to section off a space similar to what Ipswich has. They have a big space, and they, with a renovation, they section off different sections depending on how old the children are. So from infants to toddlers, and then there's a staff that oversees the program at each level.
But what space? Where's the space and what is it currently being used for?
So right now we've it's a space that was it's the staging at the Bresnahan. It's right behind the stage. So that space has just been utilized for really not different aspects. It hasn't been like a set classroom. So it's a nice space that we feel we can utilize without having an impact on the rest of the school. So we're not like taking a classroom away or anything like that. It's like really the stage space behind. So the next time you go into the Bresnahan gym, you'll see the stage, and then there's a space behind that.
Okay.
So-
And how many employees will there be?
So we're looking to have, and Ms. Gale will have probably more information on this, but we'll have a daycare director, early childhood director, and then probably 2 full-time employees.
Only 2?
Well, and then we'll have the support. It all depends on how many children that
Yeah.
that
No,
we
I'm
have.
just thinking about like the ratios. That infant ratios are like what, 1 to 3. I mean, they're just very small ratios. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm like, and after that, you just might end up with a lot of employees. That's all. And are they
Right.
employees of Newburyport Public Schools?
Yes, the
So then
teachers.
You're saying it's sorry. I absolutely love this idea.
Yeah,
I
we'll
really love
work
it.
on
I
the
think
details
there's
as we move
This
forward.
is just a vote on a donation. Like, I
Correct.
don't know. I mean, maybe this would be better to have a presentation on the plan, because I think this is just a donation to start
Correct.
the process of planning the
But
daycare
if they
center.
accept the donations, it sounds like they'll start the capital improvement process.
It's the planning, right?
Correct.
Superintendent?
So we're going to accept the donation,
Yeah.
and then Pam Keeley and I will put together a plan that we'll present to the school committee.
You won't start building something.
No, we're not starting it, no.
Okay, you wouldn't start like actually purchasing materials and building?
No, not yet.
Got it.
No.
Okay.
So you guys will get the full plan, and then we're going to really, we have a great partner with Ipswich,
Yeah.
and so we have a good relationship with them already. But there's a lot of details that, this is I think the beginning for us to move forward now And now we go back and provide a lot of details of what it's going to look like.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the clarification. I guess I just didn't, I was worried about accepting a donation that would then start you to going ahead with expenditures before we even really knew what was happening.
Right, yeah. So we're going to get all our ducks in a row and present to school committee, and we'll be ready. But this is like I think last year, we did a lot of work, even just talking to teachers and doing surveys to see if there was even an interest, and we got overwhelmingly there was an interest. And then so from there, we started working with Ipswich and that whole process. And then last year in the March, we talked about a date potential. So we were really just looking for that startup funding. And now that we have this, now we're going to go back and provide a detailed plan for everybody.
Okay.
How long has Ipswich had their childcare program?
20 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
that's good.
They
Great
have-
resource for us.
It's a great resource.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. Any other questions about the program or the Swayze funding?
No, I would just reiterate Member Higgins, some of the questions that, I think those are things that we as a committee would want to have answered before, this moves forward in a formal way. But I think
Correct.
The concept is exciting.
So I think we're ready. If someone has the motion, would it be motion to accept the funds?
Yes.
Okay. And the policies listed
The
here.
donation.
KCD.
I will make a motion to approve the acceptance of the Swayze donation of $50,000 to support the creation of a daycare center for staff as presented by the superintendent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to discuss the proposal for Instruction and Learning Subcommittee. Mayor, we already had a good discussion about this, but you were not here, and so we're just gonna, it should be pretty quick. You want to just give a little overview?
Yeah, I know you all had the conversation already. I think this is going to look a lot like what we had before. I don't know if we need to actually have more than what was in our packet to vote on, but I think this lays out kind of what we're thinking around this new subcommittee. Again, I don't have to read what's in the packet, but obviously, reviewing outcomes for all district curriculum cycles, review priority initiatives related to instruction and learning, review district assessment data, and recommend superintendent spotlight presentations to share in academic progress and successes. I really just look at this as another way for us to be a little bit more in tune to what's going on a day-to-day basis in instruction and learning. I think, things like curriculum cycles and pilots and, data on a day-to-day, week-to-week, and quarter-to-quarter basis is just important. And I think the more we can be getting those reports, I'm assuming, like before, the assistant superintendent will be the one to work with us in this subcommittee. I think the more that we can be getting those in front of school committee members, that we can actually be bringing, pretty thoughtful presentations to the public at our larger business meetings. So, like I said, I think we had good intentions when we got rid of this a few years back, but again, we tried something and we clear that we were missing it. So I think that's why it's a good idea to bring it back now.
Yeah, I support this. Obviously, we've had discussions about it before. The only thing I would throw out there as a consideration is we have two different types of committees that the school committee can form. A subcommittee consists only of members of the school committee, less than a quorum. Staff can be invited to participate in the meetings, but it's not a requirement that they serve on the committee, nor would anybody who's not a school committee member serve on it. The other option is an advisory committee, and I didn't know if that was something we wanted to consider instead. It's also formed by us. We would typically have members of the committee serve on it as well, but we could invite members of the community or members of staff to serve on it as well with the input of the superintendent. I just wanted to throw that out there. I think either way we can probably involve other people. It's just that they wouldn't really be technically part of the committee if it was a subcommittee of the school committee versus an advisory committee. But an advisory committee, we could have standing members that are, invited to be on it. So just something I meant to share this beforehand and I forgot, so I'm sorry that I didn't send this to the committee as a group before this as a suggestion, but I just wanted to throw that out there for discussion.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I kind of like making it a formal
Keeping it
subcommittee.
subcommittee?
It gives it a little bit more teeth for me.
Okay.
Advisory, I always think of like they're advising us on something. I don't know if that's the case here. I just think it's a little bit more formal, and I do think you're right. I think working with the assistant superintendent, I think we'll be able to bring those people in to make the meetings meaningful. But that's just what I think.
Okay.
Anyone
Vice
else?
Chair Hall and I were talking about her math was a lot quicker than mine. The symmetry of having, how many subcommittees would we now have?
Oh, so yeah, what I was saying is if we add this one on, and that and we have communications, then we have 4 subcommittees, times 3 members on each committee is 12, and there's 6 of us. So that's going to work nicely, Mayor, when you make those assignments for next year, everyone will get 2 assignments.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah,
You convinced me.
that works. What's that?
Everybody will get to.
That convinces me.
I do like the symmetry of that,
Yeah.
I admit.
Symmetry's hard to come by.
Any other thoughts, comments before we make a motion on this? Anyone else want to consider the advisory option versus?
I'll withdraw.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Everyone knows that I'm in favor of this very small tweak. This came up previously, but I'm not sure if this committee feels the same way. I just feel instruction and learning is a mouthful, and I was wondering if we could revert back to teaching and learning.
That's fine with me.
I think that's actually consistent with what other schools have done.
It is. It's just a little easier to say, and I know that sounds like a small
How about
thing,
teaching
but-
and instruction? It will just mess everybody.
Teaching and instruction and learning. Yeah, I like that.
Yep, I like
Teaching
it.
and learning. Yeah.
That works.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion and we can just say,
Yeah,
That's
I
the
will.
name?
I make a motion to form a teaching and learning subcommittee of the school committee.
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So, speaking of subcommittees, we'll go into our updates now. Mr. Callahan, FinCom's coming up, right?
Yep, next Thursday at 9:30 at central office.
Okay.
Conference room, Bill's old office.
We'll go to the,
Figure it out.
yeah, we can either go to the conference room or Phil's office.
I'm just gonna say I'm gonna try to go to that meeting. I do want to just, and I don't want to talk about it here. I'll talk about it there. But I do want to see what FinCom thinks about doing some things different during budget season this year.
Have that in-
Oh, okay.
in the list.
Okay, then forget it.
Now, that would be helpful, yeah, if you could come.
I'm gonna try to come. Yep.
Yeah,
Thursday
great.
morning's a little tough, but I will do my best.
Yeah, he's gonna bring donuts.
Oh well, I am suddenly available.
Are they angry?
Well, we had to go to the angry because of the gluten-free and then Phil left. So we're stuck with the expensive donuts.
Yeah, they are.
Everybody's got higher standards now.
All right, Ms. Walker, you have a few second reads here?
Yeah, so these are policies we reviewed last time for first reading, either second reading, and adoption tonight as per the committee's whims. These are all new policies, data and records retention, EHB, related to what we already do, but it formalizes in the policy our data and records retention practices in the schools as a district, sorry. I'll just do them one at a time. Any questions on that one? Okay, I move to adopt policy EHB, data and records retention as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next one is policy IJNDB, which is use of technology in instruction. It's just a statement about integrating technology in instruction and the reasons for that, consistent with Massachusetts curriculum frameworks. Again, something to just reinforce what we're already doing and why. Any questions? I move that we adopt policy IJNDB, use of technology in instruction, as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You're going to get second one of these days.
I will.
And the final one is student use of technology in schools, which is policy JICJ. Understanding that technology is part of, as per the previous policy, we use technology in schools as part of instruction, but also how students utilize those resources and what the expectation is related to their use during school day.
I have a question, just in light of the public comment that we received. Parents are coming in and referencing our cell phone policy, changing our policy, taking a look at our policy. Would this perhaps be that policy?
We don't have a cell phone policy. We agreed to not.
I know.
So in response to that question, I would say that potentially this could be that, but if we decide to implement a district-wide cell phone policy, however, to date, per Mr. Callahan's comment, it's been by building, not by district. I would say that second paragraph, second sentence, students are required to abide by the district code of conduct in their use, I think probably would, point to the practice of the building, code of conduct of the building, and I think that covers it at this point. I guess potentially in the future, if we wanted to have a district-wide policy, which nothing's been presented to us yet for that purpose, we could potentially integrate it into this policy, or there might be other policies we'd want to do that. But at this point in time, nobody's come to us with a formal recommendation to do a district-wide cell phone policy. And I think at this point, maybe we have a presentation in the future that it's going to be by building. We wouldn't want to have it be in a district-wide
I wasn't suggesting we do that. I'm just for clarity about.
Yeah. This is more about this defers to the district code of conduct, and then I would say that also would be the student handbooks in each of the schools and that kind of thing.
Good. Thank you.
All right. I move that we adopt policy JICJ, student use of technology in schools, as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Boger, communications.
Yeah, we have a meeting on the 19th, although Ms. Hall and Ms. Walker have agreed to potentially be flexible, so we're trying to get some of the city councilors in government, and they're trying to arrange their schedule, so potentially we would do it at a different time that week, but that's what we're targeting moving forward to.
Right. Thank you. Superintendent's report.
All right. I'll have Ms. Keeley come up in a second, but I just wanted to, we have posted the position, and this time we haven't had any applicants yet, but, it's mid-year, so, we do anticipate down the road getting people. But, Ms. Keeley, did you want to just talk about where we're at with the our process and the planning and moving forward once we do receive some applicants?
Sure. So at this point, we have the position posted in a number of different places for the school business manager. We have communicated it out to a number of different organizations which also handled that role within schools. And we have not had any applicants. So at this point, I think what makes the most sense is I've spoken to Ethan Manning and I've spoken to Paul Szymanski about being part of the screening committee once we have more of an idea of what that looks like. I think it's probably the best idea to wait until we have some applicants so we can then determine what the process is going to look like based on the number of applicants that we receive. And at that point, I'd be able to speak with people that might be interested in being part of the committee and give them what the time is going to look like and more of the specifics based on applicants.
And I think, like, for example, if you only have, 2 or 3 applicants, then maybe you're not even going into a subcommittee. You have public interviews with the school committee. It's when you have, more applicants that, you want to provide some confidentiality.
Right. So I think at this point, based on where we're at, it just makes sense to kind of let it play out a little bit longer and see where we're at. And speaking with some of my colleagues, there are a number of these positions open, and there seems to be a little bit more movement that may start after the first of the year.
Have we posted a deadline?
We are not going to close the position.
Okay.
That's on the recommendation of both MASPA and MASPO.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Since no one has applied. Yeah.
We've also communicated with, I know that someone had mentioned higher education, so I have reached out to some of the colleagues that I have that work at some of the local colleges to think if maybe they have, somebody that they've worked with that may be interested. So we are looking at a lot of different places.
Great. Fingers crossed. Yes.
So I just want to be clear, because there's information in our packet in case anyone is tuned in. We have 2 options per our policy, which is either to form a search committee that the school committee runs with the assistance of the HR director. The other is that we, as a school committee body, delegate the search process entirely to the superintendent and his administrative team, which would then report back on a candidate to us at the end of that process. So we're not deciding either tonight. We're just aware of those 2 options.
Those were the options that were presented at the last meeting, and I think based on the fact that we're just not sure how many applicants we're going to get, if we only get 2 applicants, then we would move forward with one option without any question, because we wouldn't be looking to provide the confidentiality that the private screenings would provide.
Yeah, understood. Thank you, Ms. Keeler. I just wanted to be clear for people who are tuning in and didn't have privy to that information.
Any other questions? Music?
I think it's the heat.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think we're all set, and we'll just hope for in the new year maybe things will pick up for us. So.
And that's what typically happens. You get out in front of it, you post early. And as we said, there may be people out there right now, but there may be other business managers in some other districts that will look a little bit deeper, and typically, we should definitely have a few interested, I would imagine.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have a couple other things?
Yeah, just a lot of work on the North Shore superintendent. So as we actually, I don't know if I spoke about this in the committee of the whole, but at the communications. So the superintendents formed a special ed advisory committee. So we've had meetings throughout the North Shore, really looking at special education services and can we cost share some of these different programs that we have. So we've had 2 meetings with all of the special ed directors in each areas of the North Shore, pulling together programming and exemplar programming with the idea of instead of really relying on a lot of the out-of-district placements, can we utilize each other's resources? The other piece that's happening is a lot of the other out-of-district placements, they're full and there's waiting lists. So that's kind of the work that's happening. As part of that, for the legislative committee, also really working with the state and local officials regarding taking a harder look at special education costs and transportations. That's a major cost center, I think, on the North Shore. That's a lot of the superintendents are concerned about. And instead of waiting necessarily for the state to take action, we have a good collaborative group on the North Shore that maybe we can lessen the burden of some of these costs amongst each other. So that's been a great aspect, and part of that also for the governor's supplemental budget, really pushing for circuit breaker to be funded instead of the 75%, move that up to 90%. And then if you recall, transportation should be funded at the 75% for special ed, but it's only coming in at 50% right now, or a little bit less. So also part of the superintendents would like to see that at 90. So both the circuit breaker being reimbursed at 90% for both transportation and special education costs. So that's ongoing. And then also part of the legislative committee, and then some of the conversation around the MCAS graduation requirement. So the discussions on what's that going to look like, with concerns and questions among the North Shore and the impact that that's going to have. And then also working with the Attorney General and just really taking a look at implications and anticipated federal decisions around budgeting and what's that impact going to have on the state. And then also L families and just that big uncertain federal funding for the future. So a lot of good conversations happening among the districts and the superintendents, and kind of where we're at. And then obviously we're happy for those 3 districts that got back to school, settled their contracts, but negotiations has also been a discussion among the North Shore. So that's just my superintendent update and some of the work that's happening throughout. So hopefully we'll have some answers to some of those challenges as we move forward.
Superintendent, I was speaking with someone at Beacon Hill recently, and they were suggesting that the Healy Driscoll administration is trying to communicate that they mean to be supportive. Do the superintendents have that sense?
Yes, I think it's, I think with all of our legislatives and state officials, we have a good working relationship with them. And I think we're one of the stronger coalitions for superintendents. So we have good relationships with our senators, but also we are hopeful with, I almost called him Mayor Driscoll. He's my mayor, Lieutenant Driscoll, and the governor. And we're hopeful for the supplemental budget to get some more relief for special education under circuit breaker. So that would be a start.
Great.
All set?
Yeah.
Okay. A couple quick follow-ups. Mayor, I don't know if we need to talk more about hybrid meeting setup, or it's just something we're working towards for January.
Yeah, I think what we
So-
talked about last time, I think superintendent's working out things on his end, but we have the
Okay.
equipment, so I think we're eyeing January, first meeting in January
Yeah.
to kick off that.
Good. Okay. Any other comments on that? All right. So it sounds like that's in good shape. And then fundraising, I don't know what you're necessarily looking for tonight, Ms. Walker. Just if you want to clarify, and then maybe there could be a fuller presentation at the next meeting.
Yeah, this is just as a
Just
this
a
is a follow-up item.
Yeah.
If the superintendent is prepared to respond to items that I shared in the email related to follow-up, this is just the item. We, as a fundraising advisory committee, produced a report that had some recommendations. I mean, it's a report, a summary, and some of those were responsible to the school committee, some of them were responsible to the superintendent and his staff, and others were kind of shared responsibilities. And I shared those with superintendent in an email, and he said he has some updates tonight.
Yeah,
so.
I can give some updates. It's an ongoing process, but I think a lot of good work happened out of that fundraising committee to get everyone on the same page. So I kind of chunked it down to the policies. So as we know, all policies have been updated by the policy committee. We've posted all of those on the website. Our notification and distribution of the updated policies is ongoing through our meetings with the principals, through email. also to the PTO sports teams, and then also with Jim Antonelli. We're updating to reflect some of those policies and processes in the student handbook, athletic handbook, which is 99% complete and will be on the website by the end of this week with the fundraising and athletic fee information. That's the goal there. Fundraising procedures, requested form and a checklist. So we have new procedures that I didn't want to, I have them pretty much done, but I didn't want to distribute them to you all tonight because we're meeting with the principals tomorrow to get their final approval. So the new process will be reviewed tomorrow morning with the principals, and we'll have that for our next meeting. And then fundraising ownership, that will fall under the business manager. And then we'll also utilize TMS for now, but that's where that will be housed, under the business manager and the finance department. And then we're working on the new webpage dedicated to finance. It's being planned and the rollout will come soon, where people can look at the fundraising. So that will contain the fundraising forms, instructions, links to policies, and then a fundraising event calendar that we're working on. So people will be able to see that. And last but not least, PTO. I've met with the PTO. We've talked about plans and their events. We've already approved their fundraising events for this year. And then January, we'll meet to review the wish list that was talked about and decide that process. Wish list usually comes out around Teacher Appreciation Week. So we're going to meet with them in January to kind of revise that and fine tune that. And then during the upcoming budget meetings, we'll also discuss a lot of this information with our people. So that's my summary update for right now, and in the future can provide a little bit more detail.
Great. Mr. Callan, it only took you 7 years. Some progress has been made. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
So should we keep fundraising on there for the next meeting too? You have a little bit more to share.
Yeah, because I can share the checklist.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
And the process.
Sounds good. All right, well, we are up to new business. First order of new business is we need to change the date for our next meeting because City Council is meeting on Monday, December 16th. I guess they're only meeting once this month, and so they decided to go for the third Monday, even though it's our date. So we are obligated to move.
Where is it written down that we have to move? It's on the charter. If they change their minds, we're kind of out of it.
It does seem
We've had meetings on the same night before.
I know.
Yeah, we don't have to move. I mean, this one, he's going to be at it, so.
Right? Is the mayor...
Oh, I would love to miss the city council meeting.
I think that's why it is, because the mayor as chair, but also is speaking at some city council meetings. That's why we try to avoid the same thing.
NCM Hub has also told us that they won't be able to broadcast our meeting. Like, they prioritize city council.
The public is going to be upset.
So we wouldn't be recorded or broadcast.
The crowd. Okay, that's fine. I'm just kind of giving you a hard time. And
the superintendent needs to attend that meeting because of the water heater.
The most important reason for moving it is that is my birthday.
So I don't think we're going to hit your birthday, though, because we're looking at Wednesday.
I already have contract negotiations on that day.
Wednesday the 18th?
It's 19th, Thursday.
Okay, well, we're looking at Wednesday the 18th. Tuesday, there were no spaces available. So it would be Wednesday, December 18th in the NHS library, usual time 6:30. Is that a concern for anyone? Is that a problem for anyone, or any meetings or things that we should be mindful of? Okay, so I think we can go ahead. Thank you, Ms. Yale's been dealing with all this behind the scenes, trying to get us sorted. So we'll repost that for the 18th in the NHS library.
Great.
Okay. Did anyone else have any other new business?
I don't have business. I just want to apologize for having left with my phone. My college kid has a very snowy departure to get back to school on a plane in a very tight window to catch the next plane. So we were kind of going through that.
Everything okay there?
So far.
Okay.
We'll see.
You can fly to
He's
Vermont.
leaving Buffalo, New York to go to
Buffalo.
Newark to go to Burlington.
Oh, it's absurd.
That's how the route works. Yeah. So.
Do you have something?
Yes. I just wanted, at some point, you can make a note of this, to request a presentation on our graduation requirements, since those are now the school committee's authority to determine who gets a high school diploma. And I know that that's in the handbook. I just think it would be helpful for the school committee as a whole and the public to get a presentation on what exactly are our graduation requirements.
I know we already passed it, but I do have a meeting that Wednesday, but I will try to, I'll be late to the meeting. I should be able to come by like after 7 sometime.
Okay. All right, and so presentation on grad requirements, maybe Mr. Wolf could
Yes, yeah.
come in.
That's not urgent, whenever you can fit it in.
All right, do we have anything else for new business? Go ahead.
It's a little bit of an announcement, but I think it's really good to remind everybody, other than just parents, the Newburyport Recognition Services, the Parent Speaker Series. Let's talk about the A word, anxiety. That's this Thursday, December 5th at 7 o'clock at the Knock. This gentleman, John Madelman, spoke at the Essex County Asset Builders Breakfast, and I would highly recommend people consider going. And it covers anxiety from, littles on up, so a good thing. And they're offering free childcare. You just have to get in touch with youth services if you need it. So,
What time is that, Kathleen?
it's at 7.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He was great at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's humorous too, which is helpful when you're talking about anxiety. So,
Yes, they don't want to be scary.
no, you cannot be scary.
Anything else? Are we doing an executive session?
We are.
We are.
Brief.
Okay. All right, so I will move that we enter executive session for the purpose of discussing possible litigation and or legal matters, and we will not reconvene in open session. I need a second.
Second.
And roll call, please, Ms. Gill.
Mia Reardon,
Yes.
Sarah Hall,
Yes.
Andrew Boulder.
Yes.
Brian Callahan.
Yes.
Deanna Higgins. Yes. Kathleen Shaw.
Yes.
Julia Walker.
Yes.
Thank you.